I have tried everything to try to relax or figure all of this out on my own. And I wasn't able to do it. And so, of course, you think, okay, like, here, let's try this now. And then, and then, and then it worked.
And so you suffered with these symptoms for 25 years, tried all
Hmm.
kinds of things to get rid of them, were taking Xanax regularly, a sleeping pill, an anti-anxiety medication, drinking wine, and running to the gym to space out. And now you're telling
Hmm.
me that all of those things are now corrected within 5 months ago. You
It's
started the program.
It doesn't sound real. Like, I am a real human. I am a real person who like struggled. Like, I wish my husband was here, but he's not. I wish I could like pull him in and be like, tell them. But yeah, like, I this is the first time I've ever been able to stop drinking. That was like the biggest thing to me. Even if none of the other things happened, even if I wasn't off the sleeping pills, even if I still had to take the anti-anxiety, that would have been big enough for me because I started drinking at 16. So that would have been big enough. But all of it, it's like, it's nuts.
Before we get into the interview, if you would like to apply to work with me and my team to help you become symptom free, go to www.coachjordanhargrave.com/apply. We will look at your situation and we will see if we're able to help. It is 12 weeks of unlimited private coaching from myself, as well as you get access to my team, and they will provide coaching as well. And we will show you step by step what it takes to beat the symptoms of anxiety, panic attacks, depersonalization, realization, health anxiety, existential obsession, rumination, and all these types of things that are the byproduct of being stuck in fight, flight, freeze response. And so anyway, go to that website. This is the same mentorship that this lady was a part of that I'm about to interview, and I would be honored to consider helping you. All right, enjoy the video. Oh yeah, one last thing. There is a little bit of a popping sound whenever she talks every now and then. It's very subtle, but just so you know, I sent this off to an audio engineer, and I asked some clients who are videographers to look at it, and we couldn't figure it out. So there's just a little bit of slight popping in the background whenever she talks. Enjoy the interview. This is literally one of the most powerful post-traumatic growth interviews that I've ever done, and it was so fast too, and I'm so incredibly proud of her. Okay, first of all, I want to say thank you again so much for doing this. How did you first learn about me?
TikTok.
Are you
Yeah,
serious? Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
dude.
Yeah. We
I
do
love
get, yeah, like we do get clients from TikTok, but most of them come from YouTube. So what video did you see? Like what was it about?
So it was the prior to, because I know you did a series on like the narcissist. It was prior to that. So it was more about like healing your nervous system. And that's what immediately got me because I had only just recently learned about trauma responses and fight or flight. And as I was learning more about it, I was realizing that that could have been something I was going through. And so when you had said it, I started looking into your videos and watching some of the previous ones that I'd seen prior to that one that I'd seen.
Okay.
So,
Well,
teaching
but
me
hey,
things that I have never learned in, in the last 40 years. So thankful for it.
wow, that is so amazing. What are some of the things that you learned? Like, are you talking about before you even did the program and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, just about like my nervous system, about fight or flight, about trauma responses. Like, prior to the program, I just thought, oh, this is my personality. Like, this is what I'm like.
Mm,
And, you know, being online, hearing different explanations, watching your videos, I'm realizing, I realized that doesn't have to be what I'm like.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm so glad you said that because I'm actually going to do a YouTube video about this soon. I had a client today. He's actually a therapist that is in our program, and he's been doing great, but then all of a sudden he had a panic attack, and he's back to normal now. But he was like, I just feel so ashamed and I feel
Mhm.
so weak. And I was like, dude, This is a nervous system reaction. This is not a character trait. This is not a character issue at all. This isn't a part of who you are. And when you walk in symptoms for a very long time, eventually, as a defense mechanism, you just take on the symptoms as a part of your identity because it hurts too much to resist. So, you know what? I'm so tired. This is people's mentality. I'm so tired of trying anymore that this is just a part of who I am. And the problem with taking it on as part of your identity is then you stop trying to fix it. Because now this is just who I am. And I don't shame people for this. I don't shame people for anything, but it's important that you detach your symptoms from your identity. And so you started to see that. And then once you detach the symptoms from your identity, then you're like, oh, wait a second, maybe there's a way out of this. And then that's obviously what caused you to pursue coaching. That's awesome.
There was a whole person in there that I got to meet after 25 years of living with these symptoms. So,
well, I mean, we got the list of questions, but like, just real quick, we're probably skipping ahead, but like, what was it like whenever you started to meet that person?
I mean, really empowering, because I just felt like my symptoms had controlled my life for so long. And then once I felt like I was in control, I don't know, it's really empowering. I'm like, wow, I'm like kind of a badass, and it's really nice.
Yes, absolutely. And I remember very specifically whenever it finally clicked for me that I can control my nervous system. Whenever I started to do, especially the body-based strategies, and I started to experience results, and they didn't happen instantly, but it took some time, but I started to see results. I was like, wait a sec. It was just like a complete paradigm shift. It was a complete game changer because I'm like, okay, game on. Like, okay, like now, like, like the ball's in my court now. I'm in the steering wheel, and I spent most of my life, literally, like from the time I was a kid until my early 20s, just dominated by these symptoms. They just controlled my life. And it seems like that's what you went through.
It makes you feel like you can do anything because you're like, I did this. Like I figured this out. And it's a big thing to figure out. So it's one of the biggest things I think that's impacted my life, because you just think you're always going to be in that place forever. So it's really empowering.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you struggled with that fear that it was permanent?
Yes. The discomfort becomes your norm. And so, like, it's so hard to explain. Like, the discomfort is just your everyday life. So it's like you don't know any other way. Like, that's just how it is. And so, you're just like, oh, okay, well, this is how it is. This is my life, and you got to power through. I just got so sick of powering through.
And you adapt and you do things to mitigate the pain. So let's talk about some of those, and don't share anything that you're not comfortable sharing, but like, would you mind telling us some of the things that you did to kind of mitigate the nervous system dysregulation in your body?
Yes. So I mean, I knew that I was doing this, but I didn't really know that I was using substances to soothe my symptoms as much as I was using substances to soothe my symptoms. Like, I was like, in the beginning, I was like, oh, I drink because I'm fun. And I take sleeping pills because I'm an insomniac. My dad's an insomniac. It runs in my family. And just all these excuses. And so wine was my nightly go-to for shutting off my brain and calming my body. My sleeping pills were the only thing that allowed me to sleep. And then my anti-anxiety medication was to numb all of my feelings because I didn't know how to process them or deal with them. And so the substances were a huge part of my life. And getting control of those, I knew was going to be difficult, but when you have the tools, like, I've never been able to walk away from alcohol before. I've tried for 20 something years. It's been so hard to walk away from alcohol. But when I don't feel that panic every night, I don't need the alcohol to soothe the panic because it's not there. And tackling my sleep was huge. A lot of a lot of, trial and error, sleepless nights, using the tools and the strategies. Um, but again, once I stopped drinking, the sleep came, the energy came, the mood change came. Um, and then the last thing was I talked to my doctor about the anti-anxiety medication, and I haven't been on that in about 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh, this is
So yeah,
amazing.
I know.
So
I
you're
feel
off of
yeah,
everything now?
yes. Although I did have 2 glasses of wine at my cousin's wedding. Don't judge me.
Well,
That's
okay.
okay.
Hey, even Jesus drank wine, right? So I mean, it's like his
Yes.
first miracle is turning water into wine. So it's like, but 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 now it's not a codependency anymore. And
Mhm.
you also mentioned something too, that you also would kind of go to the gym and kind of put in your headphones, and that was almost like an escape for you. And what didn't you used to work out for like a while? Wasn't it like an hour and a half, 2 hours?
I'm trying to think of what it was called. Like I know I had a term for it. Like just to escape. That's kind of what it was. Like escape.
Yes.
Like I'm feeling something. Oh, I don't want to feel anything. Like let's go work out for an hour and a half so I can escape. Um, so I mean, it just depended on the night, but it was just such a draining life. Like the working out, and then the coming home, and the drinking, and then the sleeping pills, and that made me groggy. It's like, how did I live like that? I don't know, but I'm so glad that I'm not anymore.
I am too. And what I tell people is you found a way to make it through, and it's actually a sign of how resilient that you are and how powerful that you are. You know, what I tell people is, and I think I told you this, I remember telling you this, I said, you have a skill set. You have the ability to make yourself feel better.
Hmm.
That's an asset that we can use. So you already know how to make yourself feel better. We just need to change what you're doing to make yourself feel better instead of relying
Yep.
on, was it Xanax? Was that the one? Instead of
Hmm.
relying, oh, I'll just pop a Xanax, which by the way, I never told her to not take her medication, and I don't tell anybody to not take their medication, just to
Yeah.
clarify. Talk to your doctor about that. But instead of being like, oh, I'll just pop a Xanax, or I'll just drink some alcohol, or I'll just go to the gym and just get in deep in my head, all of a sudden you started to self-regulate.
Yeah.
You started to do the body-based strategies that we taught you. And once you started to get into a calm, comfortable body and a regulated nervous system, suddenly there wasn't the pain there that was making you look to these things. Gabor Mott is a physician who writes about addiction. He's absolutely incredible. And he says, instead of asking people why the addiction, we should ask people why the pain.
Hmm. Hmm.
Why the pain. Big reason that people turn to addiction is because they've got a bunch of trauma stored in their body that they're not releasing. And we're designed to seek homeostasis. We're designed to get back to balance. And if we don't have a healthy way to get back to balance, we'll look to the only ways that we have accessible to us, right? Which were all the things that you were doing. So isn't it amazing how, like, you didn't have to directly overcome these addictions? You replaced the pain with regulation, and then suddenly, like you said, you didn't need to look to the addictive stuff anymore.
Yep. Because I think that's really important too. Is before finding you, and before learning about the body's response to trauma, I feel like most people think like it's like something you can fix with your mind. Like I'm just gonna affirmation this to death, or I have to think through this. And that's a common misconception. And I think it's important for people to know that it is stored in the body, and that's why this course was so important for me, was fixing that, like helping heal that piece of it. And then, like you said, like I don't want to drink at night because I feel good, whereas 4 or 5 months ago I didn't feel good. And I didn't know why. I didn't feel good. I just knew I didn't feel good, like inside. And so I was like, oh, I'll drink. but I feel great now. And I don't want to ruin that. I don't want to ruin this like amazing feeling. I don't want to ruin my sleep.
Exactly. You know, so you're a gym. Do you own the gym?
Yes, we're not open yet, but yes.
You're about to open a gym and you're a fitness instructor. Do you do diet training too, or is it so fitness diet coach too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, you know, in the fitness world, it's all about helping the person grind until they can see results. Once you
Mm-hmm.
can help them see results and they can look in the mirror and feel good about themselves, or they step on the scale and they've dropped, 3 or 4 or 5 pounds or whatever, they get some of that confidence back. They fit into their clothes better, or they just eat the food that you tell them to eat and they just feel better because they're not eating, Pizza Pocket and a bunch of Cheetos. The results push you to adjust your lifestyle to maintain those results. And that's what I tell people. Like, if you will just make these adjustments long enough until you start to get back into what's called your social engagement system, the ventral vagal branch of the parasympathetic nervous system, what makes you feel connected to your body, connected to your environment. You can think clearly. Your sleep is great. You feel adventurous. You just feel warm and good. Well, even if you just get the glimmers, you're going to now see that it's possible. Like what we talked about earlier, you're going to start to realize, wait a second, I can influence my nervous system and rewire it. And then that will push you. It'll catapult you to keep making these lifestyle adjustments until you're where you need to be. Right. And so I think now that you've experienced this taste of wellness, you're like, I'm not going to mess this thing up again. No, I'm going to keep listening to my body, self-regulating. And have you noticed that your mind is going to tell you to muscle your way through?
Yeah, that was a really good analogy too, by the way, because like I feel like when you lose 5 pounds, I did want to say that when you lose 5 pounds, you're like, oh, I could do this, and that's exactly what it's like. Like you get to the good part with your nervous system, and you're like, oh, I could do this. And of course, there's times I want to like muscle through, and with the gym ownership, like our first class is at 5 a.m., so I have to be up at 3:30. And there's some days, my body needs sleep and I need to rest and I need to make myself a priority and listen to what my body is telling me. And so I've been, yes, trying to do that as much as humanly possible.
Your mind is going to just tell you like, oh, well, just muscle your way through, meaning you don't really have the capacity at that point to work from a place of rest. And you push your body beyond its limits, and then you get outside of your window of tolerance for stress. And then all of a sudden exhaustion kicks in, fatigue, exhaustion, and then eventually nervous system overwhelm, which is a trauma state. And, the symptoms are really your body telling you like, this isn't working. Like the way that you're living your life, your lifestyle, and also what's happening in your body, you're not really taking care of your body. It's not working. Like you're literally so, unhealthy. I hate to say that. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. This was me too. I wasn't living a healthy life. That your nervous system thinks you're being eaten by a lion. That's why trauma symptoms kick in, like depersonalization, realization, all those other symptoms. And it's like there has to be quite a bit of buildup for your nervous system to think that you're about to get eaten by a lion. And so that's why when people come to me, I tell them, I say, I cannot help you until you commit. But once you commit, I will not let you fail. Meaning this has to be your number one priority because there are adjustments that you're going to have to make. You're going to have to start to get into your body, which is interoception, the experience of the embodied self. You're going to have to befriend your body. You're going to have to learn how to self-regulate, release the tension, energy, and emotion from your body. Inevitably, there's lifestyle adjustments that we have to make as well. You might have to walk. I've got 3 people in our mentorship right now that are having to walk away from toxic or abusive relationships.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to pay that price tag, then it's impossible for me to help somebody. So I can only help.
A lot of adjustments. It's so worth it. I never want to go back there. Oh, it's so worth it. It's just so worth it. I hope they do walk away, and I really hope that they get to this place because it's freaking awesome.
Are you pretty much symptom free?
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to think of when was the last time I had like I can't remember like the last time I was like really panicked because my symptoms were like the panic, like the tight chest, the tight back, like the tight stomach, not feeling like I couldn't breathe.
Yes.
I guess what most people would call a panic attack, but I
Yes.
just like that all the time. Like I was always trying to get a deep breath, like I cannot remember the last time that I felt like that, like recently. It was definitely maybe in the middle of when I was in the course, like directly in the middle was the last time I think I had like a serious, overwhelming panic attack. I
During
have
the
not had,
mentorship.
yeah, in the middle of the mentorship. I have not
Yeah.
had like a debilitating panic attack.
Wow.
Yeah,
Since
in a
yeah. And
while.
how long have you been out of the mentorship now? Has
So
it been
I started in, I want to say October, the middle of October.
okay.
So October, November, December, January, February. So it's been like 5, 6 months. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, are there any symptoms happening on a daily basis that you can think of?
Daily? No, no,
No.
mm-mm,
So
not
you're
daily.
literally walking around symptom free, except for some. What happens sometimes? You said every now and then there'll be on those days. What happens and how do you respond to it?
So I part of my symptoms previously were social interactions, especially like social interactions with new people. And so I now, like I said, like I'm switching careers, I'm meeting new people. It's part of the exposure. Like I just use the tools. It still happens sometimes. But
Where
I,
you feel a little bit of social anxiety?
yes, yeah. So I like, I slow my breathing, I slow my talking, I think, through the situation. Um, Whereas, in the past, I would just, yeah, like you said, power my way through, talk a million miles a minute,
Yes,
which I
I
do
remember we
anyway,
talked about that.
Jersey.
Well,
But yeah.
and
Okay,
you're able to
well,
de-escalate that social anxiety
yeah.
if it does happen.
Mm-hmm. Instead of just avoiding the situation altogether, because that's what I
Right.
would do, and is just be like, I'm not going.
Yes. That and
Hmm.
that's also that's a way to mitigate the pain is you just
Hmm.
avoid the stimulus altogether.
Yep.
But the problem is when we run from something, our brain assumes that it's a lion trying to eat us, and it only strengthens the neural connections of threat association,
Yep.
right? And so it's like some people avoid the environment entirely. Some people stay in the environment, but they're interoceptively avoidant. Interoception is the experience of the embodied self. So they're up here. They're not in
Yep.
their
Yep.
body, and they think, oh, well, I'm not avoiding anything. I get some people that come to the program, they're like, oh, I've never avoided anything in my life. And I'm like, okay, well, you may not be physically avoiding the environment, but you're not physically present either, because to be physically present is to be interoceptively present. And there's such a buildup of tension, energy, and emotion that you don't feel safe to be embodied in that environment. And so you're technically disembodied in that environment. You're in your head. And that's why this distraction stuff that gets taught is just so detrimental because it's literally opposite of what you want to do.
You don't realize you do these things, or you are aware that you do some things, but you don't have a name for it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I do that, or oh, there's a name for that. Other people are experiencing this too. So it's crazy to, you know, figure all that out.
Oh, it's eye-opening. I remember whenever I started to understand all the different ways that we numb and we dissociate, and I looked back at my whole life, especially starting as a kid, and I'm like, oh, I wasn't addicted to World of Warcraft. I was
Mm-hmm.
addicted to the escape that came from it. I wasn't addicted to this thing and this thing. It was the escape or the numbing in my body that it produced, right? So,
True.
so you mentioned the panic feeling. Was there any other symptoms that you experienced besides that?
The constant panic and the constant worry. I was always worried about something that was going to happen 5 minutes later or in the future, worrying about things that hadn't even happened yet. So of course I didn't remember that that moment because I wasn't
You
even
weren't even
there.
present.
Yeah, I wasn't even there. So I'm like, they're like, do you remember, when we were 22? I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I have no recollection of even being there. So that was just crazy to me. and talking to other people in the group who had experienced that as well, I was like, oh wow, feeling like it was like, I don't know, you ever like go like this and just like feel like it's like a cloud, like not real? I was in a very heightened state.
Yeah. So here's probably what happened. And this happened to me for a while too, before depersonalization and derealization just kicked in all the time for a while, is like a lot of anxiety sufferers, they experience trauma symptoms during panic attacks. Remember, trauma is a state of nervous system overwhelm. It's not an event, it's a state of nervous system overwhelm. And so if you think about it, a panic attack, there's just this escalation. And then eventually it's very easy to get to that overwhelm point. And then at the height of the panic attack, you actually are in a trauma state. And then depersonalization, realization, can kick in, time can feel distorted, and all kinds of other trauma symptoms. But then let's say that the person can de-escalate their nervous system out of the panic attack eventually. Well, then now we're back into fight or flight response, which is what anxiety is, right? So trauma is the freeze response. That's whenever you feel trapped and overwhelmed. And then fight or flight response is where there's still a fighting chance, right? And so that's probably what happened. But okay, so I know we just got a few minutes here. What would you say was the most helpful part of the mentorship?
A big part was, I mean, all the tools. A big part was the structure for me. Having like assignments, daily videos, Q&As. I like that because I'm a super structured person. I like to know what I need to do, how I need to follow up, things that I can implement. And so that was insanely helpful. Another thing that was invaluable was talking to other people who had these experiences, because you sometimes feel alone out there, and that was awesome.
Yeah, we got a guy who's going through our program. I just talked to him just today, and he said that just his mind convinces him that he's the exception to the rule, that you can recover, and he's alone in all of his symptoms. And he was at our Monday meeting, and he was like, dude, it's just like they're saying the same things that I'm going through. And it just immediately just destroys the lie that you're the only one going through this. And it's so interesting. It's like, go ahead.
I can't imagine how many times you hear that, because I said the same thing. I was like, no, I'm so broken.
Oh, I hear it all the time. Yeah, it's like I tell people I wish I could like download my brain and like put it into your brain so you could see the thousands of people that have all said that they were the only ones experiencing this. And that's one of the power, or that's the power of co-regulation too, is it kind of gives, it forces you to see things logically, because now you're not just comparing it to your own subjective experience where you're super rational and it's just you. Now it's like you've got somebody else coming in who's in a better state and is like, oh, wait a second, have you considered this? Have you considered this? Have you considered this? And what I tell people is like, you're in no state to be making these types of declarations over yourself.
Yeah.
Like, like you're not in the right state to be making declarations over your future. Like you're in a really bad state right now. And that's where I come in and my team. Like we actually are in a really good state, and we can help you know what the truth is and then give you the tools so you can fix your nervous system. And then now you can see the truth because now your thinking brain is turned back on. So what would you say to somebody who's kind of on the edge of wondering if we're going to be just like all the other programs that they've tried, or just methodologies that they've tried for their anxiety and panic or trauma, but it didn't work? And they're just like, they just need that confidence, that certainty that this is a good investment of their time and money. What would you say to them after having gone through our program, spent a lot of time with me and my team?
I'd say that I was exactly where you are. I also tried everything. I had a couple of coaches previously, and I think that this, how you refer to it as like it's more brain based instead of body based.
Mind based, yeah. Mind based versus body,
like
yeah.
Like you said, like the CBD oil. I mean, the gummies. I have tried everything to try to relax or figure all of this out on my own. And I wasn't able to do it. And so, of course, you think, okay, like here, let's try this now. And then And then it worked. And I was like, oh shoot, like, okay. And now the strategies and the tools, like these are things that I'm going to do forever. It's keeping me in a place where like I feel so good. So my advice is you got to try it. Like you just have to. I've tried every single thing and I was exactly where you are. Exactly. And
And you
everybody
live,
thinks them.
what is it?
I said, and everybody thinks it's only them that's not going to heal.
And so you literally had those symptoms for, you said 25 years?
Mm-hmm. Since I was a kid, you know, growing up in a chaotic household, I just think that had a huge impact on my nervous system.
Of course it did.
So,
And so you suffered with these symptoms for 25 years, tried all kinds of things to get rid of them, were taking Xanax regularly, a sleeping pill, an anti-anxiety medication, drinking wine, and running to the gym to space out. And now you're telling me that all of those things are now corrected within 5 months ago. You started the program.
It doesn't sound real. Like I am a real human. I am a real person who like struggled. Like I wish my husband was here, but he's not. I wish I could like pull him in and be like, tell them. But yeah, like this is the first time I've ever been able to stop drinking. That was like the biggest thing to me. Even if none of the other things happened, even if I wasn't off the sleeping pills, even if I still had to take the anti-anxiety, that would have been big enough for me because I started drinking at 16. So that would have been big enough. But all of it, it's like, it's nuts.
I'm just in awe. And you worked so hard and you deserve the credit. I always tell people I'm just like Yoda, except I'm not as cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
you're so cool.
You know, you did the work and you deserve the credit for it. And I was just honored to be a part of this journey. And I'm just thinking of all the people that you're going to be able to impact with your gym. And now you're in a great state, so you can be that mom that you want to be, that wife that you want to be, that coach that you want to be for your clients. And that's post-traumatic growth. Like you are literally a living, breathing demonstration of post-traumatic growth to the world now. And your story is going to transform so many people, because as you know, a lot of people, and I know we got to go, a lot of people come to the gym and everybody thinks, oh, well, they're there to work out. No, a lot of people, they're struggling with anxiety and panic and depression and trauma and just all these things. And so now you're going to be able to bring not just a great workout and a great diet plan, but you're going to be able to say, hey, have you considered kind of more body-based strategy for what you're going through? Hey, I actually was in your shoes. I know what that's like. And let me teach you this. Let me teach you that. And it's going to be just, I just want to say thank you. And we are all cheering you on with your gym. And you're going to be an agent of transformation.
Yeah, I hope so. And I'm super excited. I'm excited for the change and I'm excited for who I get to become. So
yes, it's only just begun. It's only just begun. Okay. All right, I'm going to click the stop button. Awesome.